So welcome all of my friends to this conversation with Sarah Junkin Woodard. I'm Henry Lawendorf, chair of the Greater New Haven Peace Council. We arranged this webinar to get some perspective on a country, Nicaragua, that gets little mainstream press and almost certainly no positive mainstream press. A revolution in Nicaragua culminated in 1979, really didn't culminate, it hit a certain level.
It won in 1979.
It won, yes. Well, but the revolutions continue, so that we understand the revolution is not an event, but a whole series of changes. In the overthrow of the Somoza family's dictatorship, the United States had installed in the 1930s. This was more than a setback for the notorious Monroe Doctrine, which says the United States owns the rest of Americas, because the leaders of the revolution were socialists, which explains the negative corporate press. Since 1979, US imperialism has done pretty much everything it could do, often brutally, to reverse the arc of time and justice, sometimes briefly succeeding. Now, I've been involved in solidarity with Nicaragua since the mid-1980s. I've traveled on different occasions with delegations, and indeed I worked with and taught Nicaraguan rural elementary school teachers science, or doing science, for a short period. Sarah, on the other hand, Sarah Woodard, our guest, has lived and worked in Nicaragua for several decades, working with the Center for Development in Central America. The Nicaraguan project of the nonprofit faith-based organization, the Jubilee House Community, it's focused on creating sustainable communities, and I think we're going to learn something about what that consists of. Sarah is finishing her tour of the US, and we are pleased that she found the time to have this conversation with followers and members of the Peace Council. She will have more to say about the organization she works with and her work in Nicaragua on sustainability, which is to say, at least a complex subject. The format for this conversation is that Sarah will speak for about 20 to 25 minutes, and she has some pictures to show and slides. And then we'll open for questions and comments so that everyone gets a chance to speak and we get time to hear the answers. We ask the questions and comments be focused and concise. But because I think people who are on this Zoom right now are already aware of an appropriate approach, I don't think we have to stress that. I think people already understand that. And when we get to the questions and answers, we're going to turn off the recording so that everybody can be candid and not worry about how they sound in something that might be seen later on the internet 300 million times. So, Sarah, welcome to the Peace Council, and thank you for being with us on this Friday evening.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation. I'm going to share the screen. Look at that. Now there's something I get to, there we go. Look at that. Okay. Let me drag myself over a little bit, can I drag it a little bit? Drag it. There we go. How's that? Is that good? Is that good, Henry?
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Okay. All right. So I am delighted to be with you. I'm actually at my daughter's just north of Boston. Henry asked me if I could come to Connecticut, and I already had my plane ticket to hop right overhead and thought about parachuting out, but didn't think that was very wise. So we'll just do it the Zoom way this time. So we are the Jubilee House Community, a nonprofit founded 46 years ago in North Carolina to work with the poor to help improve their lives. We remain steadfast in our commitment to the poor, and we continue to carry out this work through our project in Nicaragua, the Center for Development in Central America. We know that people here in the US are feeling confused, uncertain, or scared, feeling helpless or consumed with trying to make things less bad for others. From Nicaragua, we have been watching events unfold in our native land and wondering what can we possibly have to offer from 2,000 miles away. Then we realized Nicaragua has weathered unimaginable forces, struggled against outside dominance, and has miraculously emerged resilient and reborn. And we realized that our organization has worked together with those suffering in poverty to struggle against systemic oppression for 46 years, with the last 31 of them working with the poor in Nicaragua, where at last we are seeing that the tide has begun to turn in favor of the poor. And so maybe there are insights we can draw on from Nicaragua's experience and our own that may prove useful here, now, in the midst of the confusion. So in the spirit of sparking hope, we offer you today 5 insights from Nicaragua. First, touchstones of tenderness. Before the revolution of 1979, Nicaragua was ruled by the Somoza dictatorship. They were the billionaires of their time, wealthy men educated at West Point and speaking more English than Spanish, installed and propped up by the United States in order to further U.S. business interests in the country. The Somozas enriched themselves and their cronies while exploiting and impoverishing the Nicaraguan people. Resistance to Somoza began to gain ground in the 1960s with the emergence of the Sandinista National Liberation Front, the FSLN. Among its founders was Tomás Borge, a leader who took his Christian faith and its demand for forgiveness of one's enemies seriously. Arrested, held as a political prisoner, and tortured, he was released in time to participate in the triumph of the Nicaraguan people, overthrowing the Somoza dictatorship in 1979. Tomás was able to forgive his former torturers, saying, "My personal revenge will be the right of your children to school and to flowers. Instead of jailing you, I intend for you to shake the sorrow from your eyes. When you, practitioner of torture, can no longer so much as lift your gaze, my personal revenge will be to offer you these hands you once maltreated without being able to make them forsake tenderness." It is thanks in part to Tomás Borge's testimony that today Nicaragua does not have the death penalty, and that decades ago Nicaraguans openly welcomed us as friends, even while struggling and continuing to struggle against the policies and sanctions our government puts on Nicaragua. In our work in Nicaragua, we've learned to allow tenderness in, to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to be touched by the plight of others, and we let the poor be our touchstones. Is what we are doing of any use to the most vulnerable? If not, then it's simply not worth doing. Our work in healthcare is consistently the area where our hearts break the most, but it is also the area where we most tangibly feel that we are of use. Well, decades ago, in 1994, when we began working in Nicaragua, in our conversations with communities, healthcare was always people's biggest worry. This was during the neoliberal years. The CDCA, the Center for Development in Central America, responded by hosting medical brigades, and following Hurricane Mitch in 1998, set up a full-time health clinic in Nueva Vida, the refugee neighborhood set up on the edge of Ciudad Sandino. Over the past 25 years, this clinic has provided primary care and medicine to 15,000 patients annually, providing increasingly specialized care as the community's needs and priorities have changed, seeing an average of 70 patients a day in areas of general medicine, dentistry, psychology, and with pharmacy services. We collaborate with the National Ministry of Health, MINSA, to coordinate services and activities at a local level, focusing our work in areas not currently covered by MINSA's free and steadily improving services, improvements made after the current Sandinista government returned to office in 2007, even increasing through the COVID pandemic. And it is worth noting that 100% of Nicaraguans over the age of 2 are fully vaccinated against COVID. What are our goals in healthcare? To improve long-term health outcomes for Nicaraguans by ensuring access to quality and integral healthcare services, to improve understanding of health issues with a focus on educating younger patients in order to prevent disease and illness, and to provide opportunities for education to Nicaraguan and foreign students and health professionals. How are we achieving those goals? Well, we have a strong network of 30 lay health promoters in Nueva Vida and nearby rural villages who consistently visit patients in their homes, ensuring recovery, follow-up, and quality of life for patients. When patients need, excuse me, when patients need further follow-up within the public healthcare system, we provide emotional and practical support with our health promoters accompanying patients in our vehicles to get them care quickly. We are focusing more on dental care. Did you know that regularly cleaning and repairing your teeth is fundamental to your lifelong overall health? In our local public health system in Nicaragua, only limited dental services are available. That is why we are teaching oral hygiene to instill good habits in children and ensuring access through our clinic to cleaning, sealants, fluoride treatments, and restorative dental care. We're using peer support groups to educate patients and community members about chronic illness, STIs, family planning, women's health, pregnancy, breastfeeding, early childhood development, and nutrition. We are rehabilitating the Green Pharmacy Garden and training health promoters and patients in natural medicine. We're helping foreign medical professionals learn from Nicaragua's free universal family and community healthcare model. We do this through hosting medical delegations and internships where volunteers learn from Nicaraguan medical professionals and contribute their volunteer skills, including in health fairs or doing minor surgery and other specialized care. Next, community collaboration. Following the victory of the Sandinista Revolution in 1979, the people of Nicaragua threw themselves into the project of rebuilding their country. Almost immediately, however, the U.S. organized former National Guard members and wealthy exiled Somoza supporters into a proxy force known as the Contra, funding, training, and arming the Contras who attacked soft targets, torturing and brutally murdering literacy workers, farmers, nurses, teachers, pastors, and children. This continual aggression cost 50,000 Nicaraguan lives over 10 years, while a U.S.-imposed economic blockade crippled the country. Yet, in the midst of this crisis, Nicaragua created a new constitution. This constitution was not written in an air-conditioned boardroom. It was written by the people of Nicaragua in a series of countrywide consultation meetings where everyone from farmers to cleaning ladies had the opportunity to give their input to shape the Constitution. In this way, Nicaragua identified where the people wanted their country to go, fostering participatory democracy. Despite the ongoing war, during the 1980s revolutionary period, Nicaragua managed to redistribute land to poor farmers, teach its people to read and write, eradicate childhood illnesses, and offer its population free education and health care. In our work, we learned early on that solutions that do not start from within affected communities are not solutions at all. In order to succeed, all our projects arise out of needs identified by the community, work towards solutions that come from the communities themselves, and are carried out with active community participation. Today, Nicaragua's creative economy is driven by micro and small businesses, the majority owned and operated by women. But many lack the skills necessary to be successful and have asked for our help. So what are our goals in community collaboration? to work with vulnerable populations to help them learn marketable skills that will directly improve their family's economy, and to create together a space where participants can feel comfortable and can reach their potential without the threat of discrimination. How do we achieve these goals? Well, through our Nueva Vida Clinic programs, in addition to previously offered classes, we're working with 2 new groups that have asked for our support to learn vocational skills with the goal of setting up their own businesses. The first group is Mamas con Metas, Moms with Goals, with 25 moms of toddlers. Now, we had a class originally at the clinic for pregnant women. Then their babies were born and they didn't want to quit. So we added a class for moms with infants. Then the infants got bigger and they didn't want to quit. So now we also have moms with toddlers. I figure we stop after this because then they have to go to school, right? So this might be the last one we add on here. But they need skills to set up a micro business that they can run from home while they're still looking after their children. And so they've started their first class now, and it's in event decoration. Because if you've ever been in Latin America, you know it's really important to decorate for birthdays and quinceañeras and everything. And they can do it inexpensively with balloons and crepe paper and stuff, but they're learning how. The second group is the LGBTQ community. In Nicaragua, it's referred to as the sexual diversity community, has 25 members who requested a training program specifically for them. Many in the diversity community do not have the support of their families, often have spent periods of time as sex workers, struggled with addiction, and have been unable to receive an education. So we're now working to raise the funds to set up the Divine Salon. The goal is to set up a high-end salon at a house that was donated to us in Managua a couple of years ago. Now, you can see it's not in very good shape and the roof leaks like a sieve. So we're trying to raise the money to replace the roof and put the house back together. Participants will learn salon theory and practice makeup and hairstyling with clients. And then once they've graduated, participants will become mentors for the new class of participants, and income from the salon will help to finance the new classes, making the project economically sustainable. Additionally, we are continuing to work with our 80 at-risk youth in Nueva Vida with a focus on postponing parenthood, finishing high school, and going on to receive technical training or going to college. Classes cover a variety of topics, and this year, the older ones are learning how to set up a business model for themselves and will do college visits. Feeding the fight. Leading up to the Nicaraguan election of 1990, the U.S. promised to continue its war unless the people elected the U.S.-backed candidate Violeta Chamorro. As a result, Nicaraguans went to the polls and chose peace, entering into a stark 16-year period of neoliberalism where the rich got richer and the poor got even poorer. The people of Nicaragua fell into a deep depression, children begged for food at stoplights, and patients died outside of hospitals for lack of medical care. And it was during this period that we ended up in Nicaragua. Then, in 2006, the FSLN was voted back into power. Their first act in government was to declare healthcare and education through university free again. And one of the first emblematic programs was called Zero Hunger. This hugely successful program gives women heads of households a pregnant cow, chickens, feed, and seeds, contributing to Nicaragua now achieving 90% food sovereignty. The understanding is that you can't have a true democracy when people are hungry. They will always vote whichever way they believe will fill their children's bellies. We've also learned that there's a long way to go, la lucha es larga, and that there is only one place to start, meeting people where they are. First, helping people meet their basic needs. You want to live to fight another day? You've got to be fed today. We're working on feeding the fight in a very real way through sustainable agriculture. What are our goals in feeding the fight? To teach and provide replicable models of sustainable food production and good nutrition, and to support rural coffee cooperatives in achieving the development goals their communities identify. How are we achieving these goals? Well, to date, we've set up 57 small-scale aquaponics systems in homes and schools in both rural and urban areas of Ciudad Sandino. We have trained family members and teachers to maintain these systems, which grow tilapia fish and plants in a closed system. And this is the coolest project ever. Tilapia fish are grown in a tank, and the dirty fish water is pumped up into a bed where the plants receive nutrients from the fish water. The clean water then gravity feeds back into the fish tank, oxygenating the water for the fish. Each system is capable of growing up to 100 pounds of fish and several hundred pounds of vegetables every 6 months in a space that's just 2 meters square. These systems have been so successful that 60 more families have applied to receive an aquaponics system, for which we are seeking funding, building on the experience gained by the most successful of the first systems. And, oh, well, I was going to tell you, let's see, does my mouse work? Can you see my mouse? Henry, nod if you can see my mouse.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
see.
Okay, so this gentleman right here with the white shirt, his name is Domingo, and you can see that he's taken up his entire yard with this giant tank. He is raising the little tiny baby fish, the fingerlings, to be the starter fish for the next set of families. And this plant up here, this pointy leaf plant up here, is insulina. You say, well, what do you do with that? Oh, well, Abuelo around the corner, he picks a few leaves and brews a tea, and Tia Josefina around the corner, she does the same thing. Well, what does it do? Well, it's helping to control diabetes blood sugar levels because it has insulin in the plant. It's so cool. It's just so cool. We're collaborating with the Nicaraguan Fisheries Institute also to provide further training and technical assistance to these families. We also support 2 organic and fair trade coffee cooperatives to help them export their product to the U.S., where our project Farmer Shares ships delicious roasted coffee to monthly subscribers. You can buy a pound or subscribe to buy monthly, and your purchase supports more than 300 families. At the Organic El Porvenir Co-op that we've worked with for more than 25 years, those members owned and worked their land collectively. And newly included this year, Las Diosas is a women's-led cooperative that uses agroecological methods. These resilient women have overcome systemic oppression and domestic violence to create a thriving community, working in areas once considered exclusively men's work. Strengthening solidarity. Even before the revolution succeeded, the FSLN wrote out its vision for Nicaragua in its historical program. Today, this 1969 document continues to guide the work of Nicaragua's government. One of the main points of the document is solidarity among the peoples of the world, including the people of the United States, which has been the constant and historical aggressor of Nicaragua, saying that the FSLN has vowed to support the struggle of all the people of the United States for genuine democracy and equal rights. Nicaraguans feel a great kinship with the people of the U.S. Throughout the 1980s, when the U.S.-funded Contra War was filling up Nicaragua's graveyards, Nicaraguans were always able to separate the people of the United States from the policies of the U.S. government. In fact, not only were solidarity workers welcomed in Nicaragua, but solidarity of U.S. citizens was of critical support during the Contra War, with Ben Linder as a well-known example. A clown unicyclist and engineer from Portland, Oregon, Ben was targeted and killed by the Contra while working to develop a small hydroelectric project to bring electricity to a rural town. Whenever we talk about Nicaragua in the U.S. and the work that we do there, we get asked many questions. The best answer we can give is, come see for yourself. As liberation theologian Fray Beto said, the head thinks where the feet stand. In other words, the best way to understand something is to see it with your own eyes. What are our goals in solidarity? While all areas of our work in Nicaragua include education, the specific focus of our education program is to educate people from the global north hear about realities in Nicaragua, to build solidarity for Nicaragua through the creation of shared understanding and support for the Nicaraguan people. How are we achieving these goals? The Casa Ben Linder is our education, art, and solidarity center in Managua. And when you come on a group, this is where you'll stay. The spacious guest house hosts volunteers, groups, and gatherings, as well as organizing tours and classes. This year in 2025, we have 6 delegations planned, including 2 medical ones. We also host individual volunteer medical professionals to learn medical Spanish or just regular Spanish. So in February, we had the Bird Brigade, birding in Solentiname. In March, Power and Protagonism, women in Nicaragua. In June, it will be Global Health, Family and Community Health in Nicaragua. In July, Solidarity in Action, Nicaragua's Popular Revolution. In November, Salud y Solidaridad, hands-on healthcare in Nicaragua. And we don't have a date for this one, but co-ops and communities, cooperative movement in Nicaragua, please come join us. And last but not least, fostering flexibility. Nicaragua is not afraid to evolve as needs change. Today, it is often said that the Nicaraguan people are revolutionary and evolutionary, tweaking programs for improvement or even scrapping them altogether in favor of a better way, while keeping the national focus in consultation with all those involved. For example, last year in 2024, the Ministry of Education spent 6 months consulting with teachers, parents, students, and administrators at all levels of public education around the country in order to completely rewrite the national education strategy. And we know from our 31 years of community development work in Nicaragua that needs and priorities change as the country changes. For example, in 1998, Ciudad Sandino received 12,000 refugees from Hurricane Mitch, and a new neighborhood of Nueva Vida was formed with no housing, roads, electricity, water, or healthcare for its residents. That was during the time of President Bolaños, who was one of the neoliberal presidents. We began to work in this barrio at its inception, where our clinic is today. And then in 2007, the Sandinista government came back into power with the political will to improve the lives of poor Nicaraguans, a will that had not been seen in the previous neoliberal governments, reducing poverty by 23.4% in just the past 18 years. Healthcare and education have been made free again. Infrastructure has improved with roads, renewable forms of electricity, and potable water. And when you get potable water and electricity, you can do aquaponics. We're excited to see the lives of those with whom we work tangibly improving in such a short time. It is truly remarkable progress. But there is still much work to be done in Ciudad Sandino and Nueva Vida in particular. As the situation for the people of Nicaragua has shifted, our flexibility has also been needed in response as well, including responding quickly to disasters. For example, a couple of years ago in 2020, we had not planned on 2 Category 5 hurricanes, but they came anyway, one after another in the space of just 2 weeks. We used our flexibility to respond, providing emergency hygiene kits, clothes, and supplies to families temporarily displaced in the North Caribbean region, and seeds for farmers to be able to replant. Meanwhile, more recently, we unexpectedly received a donation of the furnished property, that house I mentioned. We responded with flexibility, donating tables and chairs to preschools or using them for trainings, setting up the used computers for educational opportunities for the Lobos and Leones. Meanwhile, using functioning areas of the building to develop a high-end salon reputation and a teaching space for theater classes, generating some project income. So who carries out all this work? Original founders, board members, current staff, and dedicated supporters. The day-to-day work of the project is carried out by 17 full-time Nicaraguan staff members, 3 part-time staff, 5 full-time volunteers, and a host of part-time interns and volunteers working with the Fab Five, the younger generation of the permanent Jubilee House community. We can't build sustainable communities without you. None of this work is possible without people outside our organization who believe in what we are trying to accomplish and who offer support. We still need your help. How? Well, we need you to donate your time to come to Nicaragua, learn and contribute to our hands-on work. Share our message through presentations, newsletters, blogs, and social media with friends and family to increase support for this work. If you're religious, please pray for us. Donate your time long distance here or in the U.S. or in Nicaragua. But up here, what are your skills and resources? Find out how we can use them. People have bought different legs of my trip for me using their frequent flyer miles and let me cars to borrow and that sort of thing. And also, we still need you as grassroots financial supporters. Make regular donations, set up a recurring donation online, donate stock, donate your IRA required minimum distribution, and please do not kick the bucket, but put us in your will. We know life is in turmoil here in the U.S. The very landscape of how to be in the struggle with the poor is around the globe is changing daily. But we also know that good change can happen when we pull together wherever we are, when we recognize and offer touchstones of tenderness, commit to community collaboration, deal with the basics to feed the fight, strengthen solidarity as we build networks across boundaries, always moving as needs change, fostering flexibility. Won't you join us? This tiny planet spinning in space needs us, each of us, and we are not alone. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sarah. That was, it's a very impressive project. I said I would cut off the recording once we started the Q&A, so that's what I'm going to do. Let's see if I can turn it off. Stop it, yes.